I want to welcome to the show, Sharon Wolfe. How are you, Sharon?
Well, I'm good. I'm north of Seattle and it's raining outside, but that means that there's snow in the mountains and that's good for
Oh,
skiers. Yeah, I'm not a skier, so anyway, it's it's going to be good today. Thanks for having me, Jacqueline.
of course, it's my pleasure. Now, Sharon, what ignites your energy to do what you do on a daily basis?
Well, I kind of have to say doing podcasts ignites me a lot. I enjoy sharing my wisdom and my love and help help people be courageous. I just did I'm Queen of Courage on Instagram and talking to people about how to be courageous and to be their best self and align that with your gifting is what ignites my energy. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, what inspired you to become a retirement and essence coach?
Well, I I ran a convention as a back in the about 85 and my director above me said when you get through with a big project, have something else to go to. And I think he was warning me that you get so depleted from doing a big project that there's kind of this postpartum depression.
After birthing your child.
So I think he learned a lesson or two. I didn't ask him about it, but so retirement was coming up. I was 69, I think, at the time. And I thought, well, I need to have something else to go to. And I retired in April, and in January, first week of January, I got this email in my inbox at work at Boeing, and it was a course that Boeing was encouraging people to participate in with the junior college for coaching. And I didn't think anything about it at first, but then I thought, I think this kind of aligns with my my career. I had been
Oh,
an empowerment kind of facilitator, and so this coaching program came up. And so the week before I left Boeing, I started this coaching program. And the first thing he taught us was the very first week is how to write our essence statement. And we did have to go to class with some exercises already done. So we had a running start at this process. So it was listing things like, what do you enjoy doing? 20 things. What do you enjoy
wow.
doing? And then what's some good habits and some bad habits? And what are some habits you'd like to explore? And some guiding principles. What do you live your life by? Value clarification was a big part of that too. And
Nice.
so what came out of that weekend for me was I am precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I am tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires. And now I want to light
Wow.
your fire because when you know who you are on the inside, and we stood around in a circle and read our essence statement to each other. And when it came my turn, it's like you were asking me to define my soul. Nobody had
Mm-hmm.
ever asked me about what's in my soul. And now when I realize that when I live from what's truly me, every day feels right. I feel productive. It feels a little bit like heaven on earth because this joy of what I am here to bring. Somebody recently asked me, how do I feel when I speak? I've been in front of audiences a little bit, and I was kind of surprised at my answer because a lot of people are nervous, about
Yeah.
speaking. And for me, it just felt like I was doing my job.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Because I know me, like I get nervous. I still even get nervous during podcasts, not as much as when I first started. But, I used to get like stage fright to speak in public in front of, in front of people. And now I'm like, I feel comfortable here as a host, and, online, I'm comfortable. But my next one is going to be get on stage, get in front of people. That's going to be my next.
Well, I looked last year into being a life enrichment speaker on cruise ships.
Whoa.
And then just the end of September, I actually went on a speaker's cruise. It didn't turn out quite what I expected, but I was taking a class on a cruise
Uh-huh.
ship. It just seemed like the perfect fit for
Uh-huh.
what I had been researching the year before. And I did get really nervous. My knees were shaking.
Oh my God. I
I
can imagine.
Yeah, after I got home, I thought, Sharon, all you needed to do was pretend they were your podcast audience that you were talking to, and you would have been fine.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. They have I don't know if you've ever heard of them, Toastmasters.
Oh, yeah.
They actually, yeah, they train you, they do all kinds of stuff. There's online courses, all kinds of stuff. I'm starting to look into them, and I found one place close by, like 20 minutes away. And I was like, oh yes, I want to go. And my husband is all about it because he wants to actually do public speaking as well. So I'm like, oh, we got one close to home. We don't got to drive almost to Atlanta anymore. So we're good. I'm
Yeah,
excited. Yeah.
I did become a competent Toastmaster, and I
Nice.
even went to the national conference that they had. I believe it was in Nashville. And I'll never forget I was on I guess I was in a hotel hallway. No, okay, my memory, well, it goes back to having taken a cruise to, Alaska, and
Uh-huh.
this gal was walking down the aisle, not realizing, there was, um, cabins on each side of the walkway, but she was strutting and she was kinda moving with a little bit of a,
Mhm.
jive and all that, and I thought, "Well, that's the way to feel good about speaking is getting that energy
Mhm.
aligned with what
Mm.
you're going to share," and at the Nashville conference, I was pretty impressed with how great the speakers were. It was quite fun to
Wow.
go to. Yeah.
Wow. I can't wait. I'm excited to, go to one of those things. I've never been to one of them.
Well, and another program I took was Dale Carnegie, and they
Mm.
also teach you how to speak. And theirs is a little more, I think, into helping you have a good mindset,
Uh,
both for life and for speaking.
nice, nice. That sounds good. I like that. I'll look into them. Definitely.
Yeah, good,
Now,
good.
now, how did you first identify the concept of finding your spark?
Well, that's kind of interesting. I can't put a finger on what was it, but I have had two or three instructors as I'm learning how to build my business and become have clarity about it and who I really am, to
Mm.
present to people. They said I had a sparkle. You should build on that sparkle.
Mm.
So, um, and earlier this year, I recorded my course, my signature system for the Great Discovery platform, and I was amazed at. I saw the sparkle in my recording, and I thought, well,
Wow.
I don't know what it is, but I have I have a pure heart, and I'm actually 77, and so I'm in really good health. I've never had
You
diabetes or
look
cancer.
amazing. You look amazing. You're so sparky, and you're all on Instagram and everywhere. Like you're like this social butterfly on social media. I love it.
Yeah. So I think between
Mm.
the purity of my heart, I one of the decisions I've made purposefully is not going to R-rated movies. I think that helps me have a pure heart. I've watched one, um, maybe two, but Officer and Gentleman years ago had such highly people talking about it, how what a great movie it was. And it was R-rated, but I purposely decided to go for the great story.
Right.
And it wasn't a bunch of cussing and swearing and F words and all that stuff. It was about a death, and that's life, so it
Right.
wasn't anything that would bring, what do you call it, horrors, you know, uh,
Yeah, like negativity or dark energy or anything like that that
right, right,
we don't really
right.
want to feed into. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I'll take Sparkle any day.
I love it. I love it. Now, why is rediscovering one's essence crucial in retirement?
Well, the problem in retirement is that when you no longer have a business card, it talks about, what your team is, what you're accomplishing, what your experts at, your title. This is all gone away. Poof.
Mm-hmm.
That whole social, that emotional feeling of having accomplished some good things for the company. You are in charge of your future now, and you're the boss. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
tells us that. And so a lot of people struggle with, let's see, who am I now? I don't know who I am without my business card, especially when you've been very active, working 80, 100 hours a week, or been in a competitive job where there's a lot of stress and you got to make these deadlines and all this. Um, you, oh, it, those, the competitive jobs and working 80 hours a week doesn't allow you to have a team of friends around you, family, things you do, people you do things with.
Yeah.
And that support system is very important in retirement because sometimes they help you figure out who you are without your job. But I
Mm-hmm.
had one lady, one of my first ladies I talked to about retirement, she was upset. Um, she had been let go from her job because she had been ill a year or two before this. But with COVID coming on, the boss, they wanted to protect her.
Right.
So they let her go, and she had
Mm-hmm.
loved her job. She was a manager for a ER, emergency room, and had been there a long time. And so, you know, businesses, sometimes bosses have a good reason to protect you and let you go,
Of
but
course.
it makes that leaving at their request instead of yours a lot
Mm,
different feeling. And
yeah.
then, no, she was walking down the sidewalk with her daughter. I think they had just gotten groceries, and her daughter was talking as if her mom didn't matter anymore because she didn't have a job. Oh, she felt so
Oh
insulted that she
my
had
God.
become invisible. And
Mhm.
a lot of people in retirement do get that feeling. They don't feel relevant anymore. And boy, with all this speed of technology, it's hard to keep up with all that.
That is
She,
true.
while she might not have had, ER was, I think, second shift. She wasn't having, I worked second shift at Boeing for a while. And yes, it does limit your social life because you're now doing group things like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning instead of 7 or 8 at night. And
Right.
the people that are available to socialize with are totally different. So, yeah, you need to find a new purpose. The bottom line is you need to find a new purpose. And one of those ways to do that, Jacqueline, is to volunteer. And I wrote
Mm,
a course this in May on volunteering. I do a little preaching in it because that whole concept of reciprocity, that sometimes we get presented with in a church sermon, uh,
Mm-hmm.
given it shall be given unto you and that kind of thing. Well, I remember I was about 14 and my mom, I don't know what was we were talking about, but she said, Sharon, when you do something good for somebody else, you also come you feel blessed too.
Yeah.
And so my principle about volunteering is that it makes you feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's sometimes you can volunteer for a place that really matters to you. What they're doing is important to you, and it could turn into a job. They said, "You're doing such a good job volunteering. Why don't you come on board with us?" So it can enhance your resume, things like that. But I had a couple uncles that they put a lot of invested a lot of their time in retirement in volunteering. And the other thing is, it often makes you healthier. Would you
Yeah.
rather volunteer instead of spending time in your doctor's office?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Any day.
Yeah, it adds to your longevity. So, um, the you could, well, another option, Jacqueline, would be to take something like a hobby, and now you can spend more time at your hobby, but you could teach others your hobby or what you know. Another thing, I'm tooting my horn, but I have also on the Great Discovery a short little course on what makes your heart sing. We've been
Mm.
spending so much time paying for the roof over our head and our college education and our car out there in the garage that we forget what our dreams been. You know, in retirement, you get to live from your heart. And so the course, What Makes Your Heart Sing, is meant to help you. Oh, yeah, that's right. I did like to grow dahlias. I could do that now. I did like to play the piano or paint. Get your old hobbies out and watch how much it makes your heart feel
Um,
good.
wow. I love that because, I really, really appreciate and I'm so grateful that you actually are doing something. You're creating courses for people that are in retirement because my understanding, especially with the programming that we've all been programmed to just go to work and, do our thing. And then by the time we're retired, we're not worth anything. We're nobodies. You know what I mean? And to me, I think that is so sad because just because we retired and we're older doesn't mean that we're nobodies. We are. You know what I mean? We
Yes.
still have a long life to live, but by the time we get to to that retirement stage, we're either unhealthy, we're stressed. There's so many things going on, and then either if we have kids or not, or family members, we either are alone or not alone. So we're like lost, from what I've been able to see. And, that's one of the things that for me and, the way I was raised, I'm Cuban and our culture, we're very close with each other and we don't believe in, taking you know, let's say our parents or our grandparents to like a retirement home. We don't believe in that. We believe they stay home. We take care of them. You know what I mean? We're all together. And that's how we were raised. And that's how I believe that we should, take care of our elders. We shouldn't just say, oh, well, you're older now, you're retired, you smell, go away, you're not cool anymore. I wasn't that girl. I mean, I love my grandparents. I was the girl that wanted to hang out with her grandfather and go do construction. I love hanging out with my grandmother and at, this big, okay, still in my late 30s, 40s, I would sit on top of my grandmother and she would stroke my head and I would just act like a little baby. And, I love that. And I don't understand how can you not enjoy something like that? And I get it. A lot of people don't have the best parents or grandparents. I get that. But at the end of the day, I don't think it has anything to do with it. It has to do with our own hearts and what's inside of us and how we can help others, and be at service for them, especially the older community. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking of volunteering and I'm either going that way or both. I might do the kids, there's a place here that my husband found that they have like 10 girls and I think it's an orphanage and they kind of take care of these girls. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll go over there and volunteer and help them out and see what they need. Maybe there's something that I can help with. And then also there's a retirement is nearby. And I'm like, well, maybe I could go in there and just spend an hour or two, once or twice a week and hang out with these people. There's a lot of wisdom, you know, and older, generations, and I just enjoy it. And I think that what you're doing, and you're being such a social bee and creating all these courses and having all these things that you bringing to the retirement community, I think it's amazing. I have never heard of it, and I've never seen anybody do this. And you rock. Like Tony
Thank you.
Robbins says, you rock.
Thank you.
You're
Um,
welcome.
yeah, when I was told at Boeing, this was probably a year or two before I retired, but someone said, well, the myth going around is that people put off retiring because they know they'll be dead in 3 years. Mm,
Uh,
that hurt
totally.
my heart. That's not
Well,
what it should be. I can see that a lot of men without something to do, men are such doers that,
yes.
yeah, being a couch potato may not be your idea of
Mm-hmm.
retirement. And it took me a couple years after I retired that, oh yeah, I was coming back from having been gone for the weekend, and I have plants out here on my patio. And so I was hurrying to take some water out there to my plants, and I thought, oh yeah, if they're not growing, they're dying.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, if we're not growing, we're dying. It may take 2 or 3 years for a couch potato to die.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
in fact, I have a friend in my life right now that I knew back in my teenage years, and his wife died about 2.5 years ago. And he slipped into that depression, sad stage
Uh,
these days. And yeah, usually around 3 years, you're ready for something to be different. And
right.
so I'm trying to encourage him, and he's reading through my book now, Fresh Courage in Retirement, Finding Purpose, Essence,
Nice.
and Fulfillment. And in fact, okay, so here's something what I like to do. I like to sew, I like color, and I like words of wisdom. And so when I would read books, I would collect. I think for about 20 years, I collected nuggets from my books I read. As long as they were short enough to fit on one of those little blocks,
Uh-huh.
then I would convert them into. Okay, so here's one of my favorite. It's by B.S. Flowers.
Oh my God. Yeah, that is
When
so
you see
good.
what you're here for, you suddenly find yourself on stage in a play written expressly for you.
Um,
And you may have heard of actors who felt like the role they played was written especially for them. I believe
yeah.
Cicely, I don't remember her last name. She's a thin black lady, quite the actor, and apparently somebody did write a play especially for her. I think she had been in the movie Beautiful, Beautiful City, Beautiful.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and what
Yeah.
a feeling to be playing something that came so naturally to you.
Uh,
The honor and the joy of doing what you're here to do, and now you're on stage with expressing your uniqueness. And that's one of my things I really talk a lot about in Queen of Courage on Instagram is having the courage to express your uniqueness. Comparison, throw comparison out the window. There's only
yeah.
one of you, and have the courage to share it with the world.
Yeah, and I thank you for sharing. You're so you have so much courage and wisdom. I love it. I've been actually following you on Instagram for a little bit now, and I love it. You're on point. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah,
I gotta get like doing my thing too. I'm slacking. I
yeah.
gotta catch
Good for
up.
you. Pat yourself on the back.
Oh yeah, you inspiring me. Oh my goodness. I gotta get myself on point.
Well,
Um,
to be your best, since we're living, why not be our best? And
right.
um, but it takes a lot of courage because, in school you had to wear the right kind of shoes and have the right kind of hairdo, and you had to be like everybody
Mm-hmm.
else. That goes out the door, especially in retirement, because we want your uniqueness to shine. And and the off the off what offsets that is you get to live longer. You get to leave a legacy. And I've been kind of encouraging myself the last couple of years that, you know, passing on your wisdom is what older people are supposed to do.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
it it just comes a little easier for me, I guess, because I don't look as old as I am. So
You look amazing. You look great. And you're so full of energy. I love it.
somebody told me recently I should look into being a Miss America pageant, the senior Miss America. I
Oh my
I
God. Yeah.
I may, because I feel like I'm the model of health and vitality. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I would. I want to be right there. I want an invitation to that. I will go. Oh, so can you describe the fantasy of retirement and its implications?
The implication of retirement. What was that first word you used?
Fantasy, the
Fa-
fantasy of retirement.
Well, the fantasy has been that you do retirement like your folks do. That they a lot. It seems like the idea was, I've earned this. I've worked so hard. I earn the fact to be able to rest and relax.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, that's good. After a year, catching up on your sleep is really good. But you need a reason to get out of the house. You need a reason to be um, your social health has to be worked on, and only you can do that. My friend that's been struggling lately, yeah, he goes out to uh, a few events, like a church especially, but he brought up the fact that, yeah, so often we how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. How are you doing? Oh, fine. That's just everybody says I'm fine, and yet
Mhm.
his honest truth is that he was struggling.
Mm.
And he has recently been able to express a need for a change and ask for prayer. Well, that is a beginning right there.
Yeah.
And to actually admit to yourself
Mhm.
that you need some help. And granted, it is hard to ask for help. I've struggled with that. So, but when I did the Essence course, you know how you tell your girlfriend this a story one way and you tell your mom the same story a little bit differently?
Mhm.
It's like how much will the honest truth go over to your mom, where your girlfriend may understand it, but you slice the truth a little bit differently for mom.
Oh
You
yeah.
know? Or when you're telling your kids something to do or explaining why something is happening. T- Being authentic enough to tell your honest truth is what
Yeah.
helped him start recovering from all this depression and sadness. And um, I I host a loneliness group every Wednesday, and I understand. I'd like to see more PTSD people and maybe first responders who are retired, and people that could reach out for help if they just had enough courage to do that. And being honest, I mean, okay, the road to resilience, um, in I've been doing a year now, I'm realizing that part of resilience is, one, being able to pick yourself back up
Mhm.
after you've been knocked down or something. But telling yourself the truth is part of that resilience. When
Yeah.
you're struggling, do you have the courage to look at it a different way? To look at what are you doing that you recognize I need some help? Actually, oftentimes us children recognize the sadness in our parents before they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And to ask them, how's it going? And then how's it really going is a way to help them face the truth and maybe new choices. In how many times have they been invited to something and say, "Oh no, I don't think I could go,"
Mm-hmm.
and instead of pressuring them, "Oh, I bet you could. I'll come pick you up. You can come with me," and
Yeah.
as a way of getting accepting some new behavior. And it's not easy, but we can help people because we often see their struggle before they're willing to admit it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And unfortunately, a lot of us get disconnected and we live in fear and we think that nobody cares and we have our own limited beliefs. And I know for myself, I struggle with a lot of, like mental health for years, pretty much almost my entire life. And I just a year and a half ago got away from severe depression, anxiety, and panic attacks. Yeah, I went through a lot, especially after my grandmother passed. And for me, it was like, oh my God. But I realized that the first step is the awareness. For me, it was to become
Yeah,
aware of, wait a
yeah,
second, I'm going through something and I need help. I can't do this by myself, but then you have to build the courage to ask for that help
yeah.
because you in your head are saying, well, if I ask for help, then that means I got to open up. And that means I have to be vulnerable and I have to express what I'm going through. And not everybody cares. Not everybody wants to hear it. You know what I mean? So you kind of go back into, your own little cave. And, it takes a while. It takes a while to really open up and feel that, courageous enough to say, I need help, please. I need a friend. And it's hard. It's
It
hard.
is. It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
So I love talking about vulnerability because
Uh,
Brene Brown says it's the willingness to show up. That means get out the door, show up,
uh-huh.
be be seen without any expectation of the outcome.
Yep.
So how I see this, Jacqueline, is if I blurt out something like I love dogs and you like cats, um, that may not, that's just no consequence. And
Yeah.
yet, I might find out that you show dogs, that you are so involved in dogs or cats. I don't know. They don't show cats, do they?
Oh, I don't know. I have my dog.
So, so I I find being vulnerable as being akin somewhat to miracles
Uh,
because I might become closer to you because I just blurted out something that was inconsequential, and yet oh yeah, I did something like that yesterday, or I've got relatives that are involved. Okay, so all this um, voice technology recognition. I have a
uh,
cousin that's been working his whole career in Indianapolis on this voice recognition. How cool is that?
wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So so saying something that may not seem appropriate or where it will fit in remains to be seen. But I live to tell about it. Now
Yeah.
it invites you to re- be reciprocal, respond with how do you identify with what I shared? I'm own, I'm willing to show up and be seen or heard without any guarantee of the outcome. And I leave it to the universe, the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit,
Yeah.
the intuition of where it came from is meant in a good way.
That was beautiful. Yeah. I'm right there with you. Now, how do you help individuals to move from surviving to thriving in their later years? Because again. It's hard, even for us young people. Still, it's hard to imagine for the older generation. It must be insanely hard.
Well, um, so let's talk about feeling invisible. I felt invisible my
Mm,
whole career. I actually
mm.
wanted to be invisible as a kid. And it wasn't until I retired that I realized that maybe I was still wearing that invisible cloak. And I, because I actually took the class that first weekend. I told a story about having that I was getting gutsy, courageous, vulnerable. And my friend Pat, the next weekend, it was her birthday, and I had written her a email the night before saying that I would probably wear a hat to her wedding or to her birthday party. And she says, "Oh yeah, it'd probably be you and my. Oh wait a minute, maybe my sister." I thought, well, that's kind of it wasn't encouraging me at all. But so I took it. They invited me to take my hat in the next day and show them. And this is the hat
Oh
I
my
I
goodness,
took
I
into
love it.
class, and I wore to her party. It's they say Kate Middleton wears a hat like this.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so, but the interesting thing was I was motivated to not only take in one hat, I took in 4 or 5 hats, and every time we had a break, I'd put on a different hat for a couple minutes.
Mm,
And that I still don't fully understand it, but it seemed like something in me wanted to be seen.
mm.
Nowadays it seems like it's purple or turquoise or pink hair.
Uh-huh.
People want to be seen. And
Oh
uh,
yeah.
so so moving into being thriving, Jacqueline, I think is part of being willing to be seen, being
Yeah.
willing to be important in someone's life. Maybe
Uh-huh.
you have to take the step to walk across to your neighbor and start chatting with them, encouraging them, helping them recognize, oh, you're such a good gardener. I wish I knew how to garden. And that needing each other starts to build.
Mm.
And again, the volunteering as you get to mingle with new people. You get to learn something new. You get make a difference in someone's life. So right now I volunteer. Tomorrow I will go down here to the food bank that's around the corner.
Okay.
And since I enjoyed driving for Lyft and having conversations with people, I
Lady,
even
you do so many things.
I she had 2 or 3 people that shake my hand after they got out because we had such a good conversation. But,
Wow.
so I drive for the food bank. There's people especially during the pandemic, that either they didn't have a car or they're caregivers, or they had, like one lady had a, deaf grandson. He was about 10 or 12 years old, and every now and then he'd see me coming, and he'd come help me carry the groceries in, and he
Uh,
liked that a lot. So, um, but but the idea of volunteering of I had a guest on the podcast I did, and the 6-time AARP president for Washington State he had 9 tips of what you get or what happens when you volunteer. And his last story was about changing somebody's life. He had learned how to go into assisted living places and be an advocate for the residents to see if their needs were getting met, or were they being ignored. And he found this lady that never ate in the dining hall ever, never. And she was a tiny little lady, and she didn't have any teeth. She felt embarrassed that she didn't have any teeth to be, mixing with other people. So he was an advocate for helping her get dentures.
oh,
Something as simple as that, and it changed her life. So
wow.
what a feeling to know that you've made one person can definitely um, say that you you transformed my life.
Wow. Yeah. You don't, I know that sometimes us as empath, we want to help the world and we want to, change, make changes and stuff like that. And it starts with one person at a time, one thing at a time, and then it just keeps going. And then, you inspire somebody else and that person goes and helps and does something else. And then next thing you know, it's that ripple effect of really helping, and being that
Exactly.
servant. So it's beautiful. I get the whole thing and I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool.
I started reading a book last night called Infectious Generosity,
Mm.
and it was written by the guy that started the TED Talks. Are you familiar?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
familiar with the TED Talks. Yeah.
And one of the last stories in the chapter one was how somebody in India saw, I forgot what she saw on, whether it was a TED Talk or yeah, it must have been a TED. Yeah, Sir something Robertson he was one of the first ones. There was about 6 or 10 people that did the first um, go around for TED Talks, and it was such
Mhm.
a small platform then. And how she decided, I want to have a good education like what Robertson was talking about. And so her and her girlfriend got together and started making changes in their local schools. And
Mhm.
he told her like 10 reiterations of that ripple effect of sharing and sharing and sharing and sharing is changing the world.
Yeah, it is. It is. Actually, it's funny when you mentioned TED Talks. I have a young lady. She's in her mid-20s, and she actually wanted to be a guest on my show. And I talked to her for a little bit, and I said, "Well, you know what? I don't think you're yet ready to actually be a guest, from our conversation." And I said, "But I just got a message. And how will you like, because I was looking into starting my own life coaching program next year. And I said, how would you like to be my guinea pig? And I could start this coaching program now with you and help you because she wants to be on a TED Talk. That's what like her dream is to actually do TED Talk. And I said, well, if I could help you from what you need right now and get you to where you want to be, then I think that would be an amazing thing to do. And she's like, do I have to pay you anything? And I said, no. I said, I right now want to help you. I just want to help you as much as I can. And I want to try different things that I've learned, that I've integrated, and that I'm going to put in my coaching program. And then, she was so excited. I mean, she was so ignited. And I was just like, oh my God, really? Like you would allow me? Like you
Yeah.
would love that? And she's like, yes, please help me. And she's in Canada. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? The challenge is on. Let's do it. Let's do this together. Let's figure out how we could get you from where you're at right now to where you want to be. And she's all in. I said, the only thing I want from you is your 100% commitment. That's all I need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's super excited. Actually, I have my first session with her December 9th. So I'm really excited for that. Yeah.
Cool. Way to go. Well,
Yeah.
another word that I love is possibilities. And you work through
Mm-hmm.
the possibilities of making it happen. And
Cool.
that's such a difference with I'm in a new program right now, and they keep commenting about how willing I am to take action. That
Mm-hmm.
separates me from a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I often say, even on my Queen of Courage, that I'm the one that stops me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's somewhat of a mindset, but it's also that I believe I'm my best investment. I'm not one to go out there and buy 200 pairs of shoes or gowns or um, hairdo or whatever.
Yeah.
I invest my money in me. And so
Mm-hmm.
being a lifelong learner makes you such far ahead of others because you're working on personal development. And um, ac that's the kind of people that will go places, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And it's funny because I was an honor roll student growing up. And, then I found myself it was weird because I would be in class and I was such a math whiz. My father was the one that taught me math. And, I had this discussion with one of my math teachers. Yeah, I think I was in 10th grade or ninth grade. I can't remember now. And, she's like, well, the way that you did your work wasn't the right way. And I said, what do you mean it's not the right way? She's like, no, you have to do it this way. I want you to give me the whole details and then give me the answer. And I said, well, I did do that. And she's like, I don't understand what you did here. And I said, well, my father's the one that taught me how to do this. And she's like, well, we're not in Cuba, we're in America, and I felt so insulted, because I'm here, like I've learned from this man that it's a genius when it comes to math, and then I got this lady insulting not only my culture, myself, but my father. And I said, you know what? This doesn't feel right. The only class I think really felt right to me was a little bit of science, but not even history. Like a part of like history felt like false, that a lot of things were like not right or hidden or kept from us. So I literally, I'm a high school dropout. I left school. I was like, I can't do this. I just want to leave. And I left and I went and I got a job. And then next thing I know, like I think it was 2 or 3 years later, I went to work for this big company and I started managing 2 different locations. And, I just kept going, you know what I mean? And throughout my life, that's how it's been. And then I started falling into the limited belief mentality. As I started working in corporate America, and I would work my behind off, and I would give my all, and I was never really seen or appreciated or anything. So I started thinking, well, am I not that smart then? Are people like am I like falling behind because I dropped out of school? But then I'm like, no, like the mind starts tricking you, right? And then I run other businesses. I've done so many different kind of work and stuff like that. And then as I got into my 40s, oh my God, my whole limited belief of like, who am I? Am I good enough? All that just crumbled in. Like, I just felt like I was no one. Like, I was not good enough for anything. And I've had to go from not knowing who I was, not being good enough, losing myself completely, to finding myself again. And this happened, and this has all been happening because I got sick, and then a car accident, pretty much lost my life almost. And then again, got sick, opened up my own business after the accident during the pandemic. So I've done so many things, but then after I got really, really sick with severe depression and some other stuff, I'm like, how am I ever going to be able to work? I can't do anything. I could barely even get out of bed. And the moment that I decided that I was going to take life under control, and I was going to take care of my health, and I was going to dedicate myself to my health entirely. And that was all of 2023. Now we're here in 2024, almost ending this year. And I had no clue that I was ever going to be a podcaster, that I was ever going to be able to speak, because I was even losing my memory. And I look back now and I'm like, holy baloney. If you put in the work and you actually just become that fearless goddess, and you just keep doing things. And then I started like, wait a second, I want knowledge. I want information. I want truth. So here I go starting to read books. And then it was more books. And then it was courses. I did Tony Robbins, and I was back then not in my best health. And we did like 5 or 6 different, programs with Tony Robbins. And that helped. That really helped to start getting me, and now I'm just like, you know what? I'm unstoppable. I mean, I still am getting myself organized, but I'm here like, oh, I told my husband, I'm like, next year I want to speak. I want to do public speaking. I'm doing my coaching thing. And he's looking at me like, oh my God, you're really doing this, And I'm like, what do I have to be afraid of? What am I going to be afraid of? Only me. I'm the one that limits myself. I'm the one that stops me from doing the things that I want to do. Nobody else. Who cares what anybody thinks about you? Who cares about how people see you? How do you see yourself? And that's been the inner work, the shadow work of having to like let go of all those limited beliefs, all those words or thoughts or things that don't, help you, and say, no, I'm taking my power back, and I can do and create everything and anything I want in this world. You know what I mean? So that's why it's like I want to help people. That's why this girl Zoe, when she was like, when I saw her passion, I saw, that she wants to be a public speaker and she wants to do all these things. And I just connected with her at such a deep level because I saw kind of myself in her, because she had she came from a what was it, Muslim cult, background, and her father was very strong with her, and she actually ended up leaving her country to go to Canada by herself. That was courageous, but she
Yeah.
suffers. She has certain things that she suffers from, like mental health stuff. And I said, you know what? Don't focus on that. You know what you're going through. Now let's see how we could help you. You know what I mean? I don't like to focus on the problem. I'd rather focus on the solution.
Well, and that's what coaching is all about.
Uh-huh.
Counseling is looking at the things behind you and trying to make sense of it, but coaching is looking at the future and you're making choices about what
Okay.
you'd rather have. And a lot of people don't know what they'd rather have. But that's
No.
why working with a coach is so valuable, because I remember them saying, "What would you rather have?" And getting that hope and courage alive. In fact, let me tell you the story about how I came up with fresh courage. Um, I love Hallmark movies, and
Me
one of
too.
the Hallmark movies, it was a summer dude ranch kind of place, and they said, when you go home from vacation, you often go home with fresh courage. Oh, yeah. I had
Mm-hmm.
already figured that out at work, because when I come home from vacation, I had more gumption to solve some things that had been going on for too long,
Yeah.
and if it's up to me, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And
Yeah.
it had more backbone, would be a good name for it. And so I'm out here to inspire boomers to thrive with fresh courage, defining who you are and what you can still give the world. And to my solution to mental health, if I bold enough to say, I had moved with my job down to Tampa, Florida, and my friends here had said, "Well, give yourself at least 6 months before you come home with homesickness."
Yeah.
And so 3 months, I thought, "Oh, I've got this made. I'm doing fine." But by fourth month, I had hit a wall. And so I got out. I thought one place to look for courage might be in the Bible. So I got out my, uh, I don't know concordance. That's what it is.
Sharon, your
Eh, eh,
internet connection is going out.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Sharon, your
Can you hear
internet
me?
connection is going out a little bit. Do you want to
Hello?
start?
Hello?
Check your internet connection really quickly.
Um, it says I'm hooked up. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it went out for a little bit. So let's go back to
Oh,
that story and then I'll edit it out.
uh-oh. Now you're frozen. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah, you were frozen. Okay, so when I went to Tampa, Florida with my job, transferred to my job, my friends here had in my goodbye party said, "Well, Sharon, before you come home with homesickness, give yourself 6 months." So at 3 months, I was doing good. I thought I've got this. I'm okay. But by fourth
Right.
month, I had started hitting the wall, and so I got out my Bible concordance and looked for courage. And in Joshua chapters 1 and 2, it says several things about courage. Do not be afraid. Be of good courage. Be of great courage. I will be with you wherever you go. And I started stomping my foot and saying, I refuse to live my life based on fear.
Mm.
And I think that's made a big difference in how I look so young, is
Oh,
not letting things stop me and living with courage instead of fear. So anyway, that's so what a difference with mental health. Okay, another solution, that if you're going to sleep and you can't, things are going over and over and over in your head, or you're worrying, that's where the
uh-huh.
guinea pig is going over, our ingenuity is meant for creativity, not for worry. So
Exactly.
I pray for 20 people as I'm going to sleep and as I'm waking up. And if I fall asleep in the middle of my 20 people, oh well, that's the whole point. It works a lot, really well. And
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, and you're sending some really nice, prayers out there for people. So it's a win-win.
exactly, exactly. Uh-huh.
Yeah, wow. Now, could you share an example of a client transformation that stood out to you?
A client transformation. Well,
Yeah.
my friend Elizabeth is a couture fabric designer. Well, she designs fabric, but then she puts them into couture outfits. I see
Wow.
myself wearing 2 or 3 of hers someday. And
Right.
yet, when she went through my course, she was listening to a lot of good programs on YouTube as
Uh-huh.
she would work around her house. And um, so when I worked with her to bring out her best, her she liked sunshine. I call mine, I said I'm a precious jewel of wisdom. Well, that has a whole story about jewelry that I found that just excited me. It was so unique. But hers was sunshine. So we were living in I met her in Texas, and they have a lot of sunflowers, big sunflower seeds,
Mhm.
out there. And so I imagine between the sun and the sunflower that kind of spoke of Elizabeth. And she started seeing herself in a more positive light. That whole mindset, we talk about
Mm.
how we feel about ourselves. And it lit her up and it took her business to a new realm. And, there's, you have to, creative people are kind of different, I guess, in that you don't you don't they don't work as well in that corporate office, and how many
Oh
people are,
no.
yeah, in the corporate office. It kind of makes their whole creativity die. I read
Oh
recently
yeah.
the book Balancing Act about the guy that ran Circle A for 20 years, and whenever they were doing negotiations with setting up a new program, or Las Vegas or whatever, uh, the creative people were totally off limits to anybody that was trying to do the corporate, money stuff.
Yeah.
You do not have access to those people. And it started realizing that I'm the creative person, and yet I have to do all this um, management of, getting leads and getting bookings and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
I'll be the creative person, but I need help around me that does the finances and the back office stuff. And so I
Yeah.
finally woke up to getting some help. Besides, my computer had kind of um, died. and, and so I let somebody buy me a new computer so I could carry on.
Wow.
But yeah, thriving in retirement is definitely a choice. And the mentoring, like teaching someone else how to write a story, or how to read, or um, how to uh, like speak in TED Talks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had somebody give me a book on how to become a TED Talk, right? I mean, a speaker, and submitted for a possibility. At the time, they didn't find what I had to say unique enough, I guess. But I still put myself out there and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you do, right? Is again, not allowing fear to stop you from being yourself and doing the things you want to do and bringing amazing things to the world that could help people. You never know. So
Well,
yeah.
I think the whole healthiness business, I think about all the spices that our parents, and grandparents knew fixing dishes. I swear that those spices are part of what kept us healthy, because
Yeah.
all the stuff out in McDonald's and well, Starbucks, they that has, but McDonald's especially, there's no flavor in the food. Yeah, it might fill
No,
up an
that's
empty
not real
stomach.
food. That's not
Yeah.
even real food. That's synthetic. I mean, I tell my son all the time because he's got two young girls and he's a single dad, and raising his, especially his oldest by himself. And I said, I know that sometimes you don't feel like cooking, but you don't understand. Like, I send him a video. I'm like, watch this video. You would never want to eat McDonald's again. And he was like, yeah, well, whatever. And I'm just like, oh my God, how can you eat those things? And I get it. Sometimes they can taste good because they put certain things in it to kind of like get you to want more of it,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know? But at
yeah.
the end of the day, it's the most unhealthiest food ever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't do fast food. I like to do, if I do, Chick-fil-A. That's like I guess, the best of the worst of the evils because that's the only one that I would really want to do. But McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, all that has been gone. I mean, I did have Taco Bell like this year once because I was in a hurry and I didn't want to get off the car. And I think that was the only thing in this area because I'm in the mountains, so we don't have a lot of options for drive-through, good stuff. And I was just like, oh, fine, whatever. I'll have a taco. No big deal. I'm not gonna die for having one bad taco. But that's it. And my husband's like, you are naughty. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Leave me alone.
Yeah. So now we can draw on our parents and grandparents to teach us how did
Mhm.
you do it and how, you know, you're always healthy and
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I grew up with my grandmother in the kitchen all the time. Morning, afternoon, evenings. Like she was always cooking these huge meals and all kinds of spices and stuff. And that's how I love to cook. I put spices on everything. I remember 7 years ago when I first met my husband, he's trying to do this healthy thing. And then he cooked this really, really healthy meal, but it had no taste, no flavor. And I said, wait a second. If this is eating healthy, I'd rather eat what I've been eating my whole life that my grandmother was cooking, or like great Cuban food or whatever. I said, this doesn't taste good. And then I was like, did you put any spices or anything? And he's like, no. And I was like, oh, come on, let me teach you. So then we started like, he showed me Pinterest. I was never big on Pinterest. He was. And I said, look, let's get this meal and these are the spices. And we started buying spices. And then he learned how to cook with spices and everything. And sometimes I tell him, I don't want to cook. Like I went I think it was a whole year and a half that I did not touch the kitchen barely because I was working in my business and I was gone 7 days a week working all day. And he would be the one cooking. And the food was so amazing that when I decided to get back to cooking last year, I was like, I don't want to cook. I'm like, you know how to do this so well. But a
good
home
for you.
cooked meal, there's nothing like that. Oh, it's just,
Well,
it's a,
and that's how I know a couple of Hallmark movies that talk about love being the secret ingredient to what they're
mhm,
fixing their food with. And I
mhm.
was a baker, so I would kind of bake to express love. In fact, for a while I was in a job that I worked 3 12-hour days, and then I had 4 days off. And what do you do with 4 days off if
Oh
you
my
can't
God.
afford to go out of town? So
Yeah.
I created a project to take a few plates of cookies every week to the church. And I said, when you go call on people, leave some plate of cookies there. There's evidence that somebody's been here.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
sometimes the church staff would eat them or share them with the first responders. Every now and then I'd get a card from somebody that they had left cookies at their house and how it encouraged them and they felt the love.
yeah.
Now I for the last, I don't know, 5 10 years, I've been converting my favorite recipes to gluten-free and sugar-free. So
Oh,
that
nice.
that has some good results and not so good results, but
Yeah. You know what you can probably, instead of like the sugar, you could get some honey. We
oh,
actually
yeah.
don't do,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
Oh,
use
yeah.
honey now for things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for my coffee. And that's really weird because I like my espresso, my Cuban coffee. And then I started adding like the honey instead of the white sugar and all that. And, and I got used to it, it tasted completely different. But to me, it was like my health is more important than the actual taste. And your taste buds change. They actually adjust to whatever it is that you're eating now that's healthy. Like I
Yeah.
could tell the difference when I'm not eating healthy and when I am.
Hmm.
I could taste it. Like I know the difference big time. I know.
Well, and it's I think a couple of times I've actually had like my body tell me this isn't real.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can tell when it's fake, and
Oh
you
yeah.
need to honor that when that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Now, how do you do mindfulness and spirituality? How do those two intersect in your coaching method?
Well, I I don't use it so much in coaching methods, other than um, bringing out the courage, the curiosity, the potential, possibilities. Um, but I have felt it a lot as I'm meditating. I mean, as I'm praying for people, I will often have ideas come to me. Like a couple of weeks ago, I wasn't even sleeping. I was standing here by my dining table, and the thought came to me because I'm doing this loneliness to resilience uh, class each week. I thought, I wonder what correlation there is with authenticity and resilience.
Mm,
Interesting question. I was shocked at how much they related to each other. And that's where I
yeah,
found or gave the example of what you say to your sister or your daughter isn't the same thing you say to your mother, because you slice the truth differently. And
exactly.
some people can handle the awful truth and other people can't. So, so anyway, so that was an intuitive download, it felt like, to correlate
Mm-hmm.
that. And this week, my guest is going to talk about prosperity and resilience, and not
Ooh,
the way you
that's a
think
good
it
one.
is. Yeah, because he's going to bring out how friendships are valuable and they
Mm,
make you feel prosperous when you
yeah.
have a good amount of people around you that support you and love you. So anyway, so yeah, often when I'm before I get out of bed, I will have some nuggets of what I need to do today, to call somebody. Like I had to send out an email uh before 8 o'clock this morning for a meeting
Uh-huh.
possibly today. And the fresh courage came to me while I was kind of in a open to intuitive kind of way that um, felt like it was from the Holy Spirit. So
Mm-hmm.
the when you're, and I don't know that this correlates to thriving, but when you're out in camping and watching the campfire burn, or you're looking at the ocean and seeing all the glitter and birds and reflections of things, and just being real silent and quiet, and there might be an idea come to mind, and I think our first reaction often is, well, I couldn't do that. Well, maybe
Well,
your heart wants to do it, and
yeah.
having the gumption to the backbone to see where it would lead you is very important. But um so that mindfulness, for me, it started with just paying attention to um what was speaking to me and honoring it. And the other thing is having I've started saying to myself, I'm doing the best I know how. It made a big
Mhm.
difference on when I was trying to diet. Since I retired, I've lost about 55, 60 pounds. And
Yay.
that
That's
that
awesome.
saying, I'm doing the best I know how,
Mm-hmm.
has shut up that critical voice. Um,
Um,
and in fact, back when, well, this goes back in my early 20s, that the flu was going around. I was working second shift, and I started feeling kind of nauseous for about 10 minutes or so. And I said, go bother somebody else.
mm-hmm.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in charge of my health,
Oh
and
yeah.
shoot, go away. And it did. So um, being in charge of your thoughts and your mind and what's possible. And then I started loving myself more and
Uh,
actually looking in the mirror and saying, I love you.
yeah.
That's taken a long time. And yet it, it makes such a good person, Sharon, good Sharon here to bring to you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And a lot of us, based on the programming we've had, we have to go outside of ourselves for anything. Even to reach God when we could go directly to Him. You know what I mean? But when it comes to our health, the way that God, source, universe created us was so we could heal ourselves, and that was taken away from. And during this whole almost shoot, it's gonna be 2 years in a couple of months. That I said I'm not taking any medications. Yes, I will go to my doctor just to get blood work and see what's going on, but I will find a way to heal myself. And I was adamant about it, and I did. It was funny because God Source Universe actually put someone in my path that I would have probably not ever talked to, not for no bad reason or anything. I just, I'm in my own world when I'm out there by myself. I don't really talk to men. If I'm out by myself, it's just a thing that I've always had. I'm actually a little different now. Like I could actually talk to more people now. But, I was at a restaurant sitting there waiting for my food, and I was at the bar area just, having water and waiting for my lunch. And I kept seeing this guy, looking at me and wanting my attention. I'm like, oh, here we go. And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna pay any mind. But I kept feeling the energy of wanting me to just kind of look over and acknowledge him because he had a message for me. And I kept hearing my spirit guide say, stop being such an idiot. Go, say hello, or whatever. And so I did. I just looked over, and he looked at me, and he's like, you're ordering chicken taquitos. And I said, oh yeah, they're my favorite. And he's like, oh, they're mine too, but I order a salad today. And I said, oh, good, that's healthy. And then we start talking, and we really, really connected, like a spiritual brother type thing. And then like a few days later, we're on the phone, and I said, you know what? I'm really thinking of going to Panama and getting some stem cells in my body because I'm going through so many things. I mean, like fibromyalgia, vertigo, tinnitus. I can't sleep at night. I'm having anxiety, panic attacks, all these things. And I'm like, I can't. Like, I just, if I could take myself from this world at that point, I would have. You know what I mean? If I had the courage to do the dumb thing like that, But he's like, wait a second. He's like, I got something better for you. And I said, what is it? And he's like, I have these little patches. Okay. It's from this company called Lightwave, and it's an amazing technology. And it doesn't have anybody else's stem cells. They're made out of organic crystals, and they're non-transdermal, non-invasive. He's like, you just put them on 12 hours a day and 12 hours off. Just try it. You never know. I said, you know what? Let's go for it. Let me order that. I'll order a whole sleeve, brings 30, one for each day. It comes a week later, put it on. 3 days later, I wake up, I'm like, no vertical? Nah, that can't be. And I mean, I went to PT. I did all kinds of different things for vertical. Even for my tinnitus, I was like, oh my goodness. So 3 days later, I'm like, okay. A week later, 2 weeks later, a month, 6 months. I'm like, this thing is freaking amazing. Not only that, my mental clarity came back. My body started, activating more of my own stem cells. So now everything's working better, and my fibromyalgia is gone. Like I don't have inflammation like that in my body anymore. And then my tinnitus started going away. And then, I did something else, more spiritually that actually can, help with the whole tinnitus leaving. And then I was just like, oh my God, this is what happens when you actually get out of your head and you listen. And you listen to your spirit guides, you listen to God, whatever it is, and you just do the thing that you need to do. And it started with that. And then I did some Reiki, and I did some, QHHT sessions because I wanted to understand what had happened to me in that car accident. And, so many things that I've been doing for myself. And I learned how to start healing using energy to heal yourself, and the sun and the trees, and all these different things. Now I look back and I'm like, wait a second, we've been lied to. We could literally heal ourselves. now I'm using grounding. Like I have grounding mats in my chair, in my meditation chair. I have grounding sheets, like all these things work, and they have amazing, amazing benefits. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, why are people going to the pill? Why are people? It's the programming. And I'm like, no, no, we need to take our power back. And it goes back to taking our power and doing our thing, and knowing that we are God's source creator. We are made in his image, you know, and people don't understand that sometimes. They're like, oh, no, I got to go to my doctor. I need to ask God. Yeah, ask God, but do your part too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we got lazy. We wanted a pill for everything.
Yeah.
When they said, well, they call the pink skin rosacea.
Rosacea. Yeah.
I think it's healthy. So leave me alone. I had this one guy practically throwing it at me. I don't need anything for my red cheeks.
No, they have a thing for everything. You're either schizophrenic or bipolar, all this. And I say, you know what? I'm done. I've gone through a lot of mental health. And what I figured out that my own higher self, my spirit guides told me was when your soul is not aligned to your true self, to your true essence, that's when everything gets disconnected and not aligned. So if you're not connected to your higher self, to your own spirit, your own soul, then all these mental health issues start popping up. And it happens
Yeah.
through childhood trauma, adult trauma, anything that you've gone through. It could be sexual
Yeah.
abuse. It could be, being brought up in a very crazy environment, your parents always being so disconnected or fighting or, it's okay. Can we get back to connecting with ourselves? And that is
Yeah.
not easy. That's not easy.
Yeah. I I was probably pretty connected to myself at a young age because I actually skipped second grade.
That's
But
awesome.
but what made me different from the rest of the family in that I was a lifelong learner was um, I wanted to be invisible because of the sexual abuse going on in our home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Uh,
thought, well, if I double down, pay attention, don't rock the boat, get good grades and be obedient, maybe I'll be safe. And
yeah.
I mostly was. But
Yeah.
that trauma, one of the speakers we had in the loneliness group was a guy that has worked through and now is in the process of teaching people how to deal with trauma. But
Uh-huh.
um, he, yeah, that trauma takes a long time to work through. I was listening yesterday to
Yeah.
one of Oprah's reruns on a guy that got hit by lightning and lost both his feet and
Oh,
half
wow.
of one arm, and the
Well,
trauma that he went through to heal, and now he's a hospice kind of coach or counselor. But
nice.
um, it's serious. Like my younger sister has had rheumatoid arthritis for decades,
Mm,
and I beg to I believe she has some unresolved trauma in her body, and
cool.
she's been spent a lot of time this last year in the hospital.
Uh,
So, but I keep praying for her that she will have the courage and the strength to do what she can do. I've suggested a couple of times, as kindly as I knew how, to get off sugar and flour. Well, being we brought up on a farm and we had our own fresh eggs and milk.
yeah.
And Dad always liked his cookies and pie and cake if he get all three. And so, I felt entitled to cookies on a. I remember grabbing a handful of cookies and going off to night school. That was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that trauma has a way of being unresolved when it's inside our
Yeah.
body. So that
Yeah.
mindset and knowing that you can heal yourself is a choice you
Uh-huh.
can make. And
Yeah.
asking for help, God's help, anybody's
Uh-huh.
kind of help is
Yeah.
crucial.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I believe that sometimes we go through our own challenges in life. And our own darkness, and we gotta dive deep into our own shadow work to heal. And then the purpose that in my perspective, that I've understood is that we go through all these things so then we can learn how to do things differently and teach others how to do the same, and learn and teach them how they can heal themselves. Because a lot of these traumas is just energy in your body that's stuck in different areas. You know what I mean? Especially the mind. So I just recently, about a month ago, almost a month and a week ago, I think, came back from a Vipassana 10-day silent retreat that teaches you about the mind and the matter. And it's a great teaching. It comes from Buddha, and this amazing scientist, spiritual human being at that time decided that he had questions, and he kept asking God, what is the root cause of humanity's suffering? And he stood under that tree for a long time, and it came to him when he was ready. And it was the fact that the
Yeah.
mind, the
Yeah.
thought, we believe everything that comes through this filter right here, like this brain. We don't filter it out. We just let the thoughts be us, be who we are. And it's not true. We allow whatever thoughts come in to dictate who we are. We're in trouble. We're in big trouble.
Well, and now we are basically healing the world.
Yeah,
Us individuals that have gone through that journey of being in charge of our health, now we can help heal the world.
yeah, yeah. And I learned a lot during that retreat, and it was funny because I came back and it's been a very challenging integration. But I told my husband, you know what, I could do this at least once a year. It doesn't have to be 10 days. I could go for 3 days. I could go as a volunteer, and be of service for a day, 2 days, whatever it is, because the peace that you find in there, is just amazing. You don't have worries when you're there. You don't have to worry about paying a bill. You don't have to worry about the kids. You don't have to worry about anything. It's you with yourself, and do your work. Do your work. And you know what? Just allow yourself to become the observer. Just observe your sensations, observe your thoughts. You are not your mind, you're not even your body, you know? And it's amazing when you really learn these little techniques, you're like, this is freedom. This is liberation of being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me see. What role does community play in finding vitality and joy in retirement?
Well, joy in retirement to me is aligning with your inner spark, your
Uh-huh.
essence, with your DNA, your soul. I've heard that people who make that transformation into being a positive person changes your mind and your DNA. And
Uh-huh.
it does create a new you. I read a book by Napoleon Hill. It creates the other you that believes all things are
Um,
possible. And so I want to recommend that you can change from negative worry into hope and curiosity. And wouldn't you like to do that? One of the ways I like to end a podcast is a statement by Thomas Wolfe. And
uh,
it goes like this: if one has a talent and fails to use it, one has failed.
uh,
If one has a talent and partially uses it, one has partially failed.
uh,
If one has a talent and find somehow to use the whole of it, they have gloriously succeeded and won a satisfaction few people ever know.
wow,
Having a satisfaction in meaning and purpose is what I challenge you to find in retirement, and I'd be glad to help you.
that's beautiful. So yeah, we're coming to the end of our show, and I have a question before our ending question, our closing question. What are 3 small daily actions that people can take to feel more alive?
Well, meditating is definitely one of them, or praying. They're very closely related. finding 3 things to be grateful for. So let's see. I'm grateful today for actually the rain because it keeps Washington green.
Mm.
I'm grateful for having water to drink when there's so many people on the earth that don't have clean water. So
Yeah,
those are pretty big things to be grateful for. But another thing I'm grateful for where I live here, there's so much things that grow from the sun. Green,
mhm.
the sun and the green growing things is such a free gift. I love it. And it's a gift to us.
That's beautiful. Now, what is one message or piece of wisdom that you would like to leave with our audience to help them ignite their spark and live their fullest lives?
Well, start with making a list of 20 things you love to do. And another thing would name 5 habits that you love or that work well for you, 5 habits that don't work for you, and which habit is there a habit that you'd like to try on?
Um, that's beautiful. Thank you for that wisdom. And then where can people find you, Sharon?
Well, I have effortlessvitality.org, but it is now linked to sharonrolph.com, and it's in the process of being rejuvenated 2.0, you know? So,
Nice.
but yes, but right now I have some of my coursework out there and um, What Makes Your Heart Sing and A Call to Courage is my free ebook that you can get on my website. And go out there and help somebody have a better life. You know, connect with people and be resilient and then share your resilience with others.
Yeah, and you're also on Instagram.
Yes, Instagram. I'm sharing from my book right now, in fact. So I put in the back of every chapter some actions to take. So taking action is really important. Showing initiative, people pay attention to that. I noticed that even at Boeing.
That's beautiful, beautiful. So now we are finally at the end of our show, and it's been such a pleasure speaking with you, Sharon, and you sharing your wisdom. And, it's just been delightful to connect with you.
Thank you for having me. Let's do it again.
Yeah, and as we wrap up today's episode on the Dear Souls podcast, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our guest for sharing her insights and experiences. If you found value in our conversation, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this podcast with your friends. Your support helps us to continue bringing inspiring guests to the show. And together we can inspire more souls on their journey to healing and growth. Stay connected with us for more transformative stories and insights. And until next time, keep shining your light.